All right, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We got old people trying to use technology here. So real quick, what we wanted to go through, we had a meeting last Saturday where Robin and Shannon talked about OfferPad and them digging into the Indianapolis market. And then during that meeting, I texted OfferPad on a house that I have, a rental home that I have in Westfield. And within 60 seconds, I had a phone call, a text, and an email, another text and an email within another hour. And then, Rich, can you mute?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to mute it.
And then 3 more phone calls. I answered the 4th phone call, spoke with a very professional lady out of Arizona, had no clue about our market, but she explained their process very well. Said that my offer would be coming. In order to get the offer, they would have to have some photos. Please upload some photos. So I uploaded some photos of when we did the renovation for the rental, explained to her that it was completely renovated and occupied. So the next day, that was on Thursday. On Friday, I received a written offer. So real quick, I want to go through how I calculated, how I would list a house, and how OfferPad, how their offer worked. So I don't know if everybody can see this. My screen is covered up, but this is basically the home. I did this on the 14th. Based on comps, it was $156 a square foot, 1803. That got me to 281, a little over 281. Then I ran year over year appreciation. We'd gone from 144 2 years ago to 174 the last 12 months. And if anybody needs any guidance on calculating this, Kyle and I are glad to help. But that showed year over year appreciation of 21%. Then when I went in, I looked at the 3 best comps. I found out that on average, those average 5 months old. So I factored that in. So what this does the 21%, divides it by 12 months times 5. That got me to 308, a little over 308. Zillow's estimate is 300. And the highest sales comp in the neighborhood was 320. Then the next thing we do with the list price calculator, we look at supply and demand. So there have been, these are similar houses, 110 sold in the last 12 months. There's currently 7 active. So we're looking at about a 30-day supply of homes. 23-day supply of homes. So basically, looking at this, I would list this house for $319,900, and I would be pretty confident at getting offers based on the lack of inventory and the appreciation over the last year. So thinking of $319,900, OfferPad offered me $282,512. So basically, they took the sales price per square foot times the square footage, and that's what they offered me. But here's the catch, and please, everybody dig in on this, give your feedback. Notice what they're doing here. They're taking 5% right off the top. So they're taking 5% of your equity right there. And I guess what they're basing that on, if you list your house, you're going to list it at 6%, so you're going to pay that anyway. Their normal fee is 7.5. They're doing it at 5, I guess, because they're new to the market. They're offering a free move. But another catch in this is the repairs. And I spoke to them about this. How does this repair work? So this $282,500 netting $268,386 is not a firm offer. And I want to make sure we communicate that to anybody when we're competing with OfferPad. Who knows the odds? And Chris Kukahan is going to talk later about what they've been buying for, what they've been selling for. I'm also wondering what their offer is and what they're closing on the property at, because at the 282, we're down to 268. The guy that I talked to on Saturday was really honest. And I asked him, I said, the 268, 386, is that firm? Will you guarantee me the 268, 386? He goes, we can't do that. And also, in your case, when it is a rental property or an older property, their typical adjustment is $12,000 to $15,000. Paint, carpet, whatever else. So let's say that they're on the lower end of this. I'm actually going to end up with 258 on this offer. So on a house that I could list for 320, I'm probably going to walk away with less than 260.
So $37,500 less.
Yeah.
Make sure I understood it right. So the estimated repairs, that comes off that bottom line?
It comes off the 268.
Obviously, that gets through, especially then they'll peak with that way. I mean, it doesn't come up front.
Exactly.
That's their kind of, we already have you signed and here's your blammo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you think you've gotten 268, not necessarily.
It's really no different than any guaranteed buyout program other than their efficiency and their professionalism and their speed. Obviously, they're very, very quick and very professional when they market, but it sounds just the same as any guaranteed buyout program.
Yeah, I almost think it's worse than a guaranteed buyout because they're never going to expose your house to the market.
Yeah, Kyle, that's the
At least,
biggest.
and I haven't seen anybody do a GBO in a while, but back in the day, at least a GBO was exposed to the market. So if it sold, they didn't have to buy the house. The house is never going to be exposed to the market. So my comment to any listing client, how is it possible that you would want to give your house to somebody who's going to take, at a minimum, 5% of your equity, not value it at the market? And the man admitted to me that part of their business model is to ride the appreciation. So
Absolutely.
they absolutely know the appreciation rate is 15 to 20%. And even with that, they're still trying to take another $30,000. So they're literally trying to make probably $50,000 or $60,000 on one house. So that's about, Steve Robbins sent this out. I like this as a graphic, and based on what I'm seeing with the offer that they made to me, this is pretty accurate. Even when we have $20,000 in commission, you're looking at 22 on their program plus. As the buyer, you have no one negotiating for you. As far as the inspection is concerned, you have no one representing you, or a seller has no one representing them in any part of this transaction. So if they decide they're going to do $10,000 in repairs, you literally have no choice. You either take it or leave it. Where if you've got your house exposed to the market, let's just say I put this on the market, I get the same offer, but somebody says, okay, we want $12,000 credit for repairs. I can just say no and go to the next offer. This program eliminates all leverage from the seller. So, and Kyle,
Well,
yeah.
and once again, the major point is in this market, historic appreciation across the country, why, and little to no inventory, why in the world as a homeowner would you not want to expose your house to the market? I mean, there are a select few, but my God, the last house I offered on this past week was in Pike Township, $235,000 home. We offered to pay all the seller costs, and also my client's tied on cash. We could only offer $1,500 in gap coverage. That home had 40 offers, 6 cash offers, and they ended up accepting an offer with $20,000 in gap coverage. So that never would have happened with OfferPad. Just wouldn't have.
No, and I know Chip, I think Chip's on the meeting. You've had obviously more experience than we have with OfferPad. What's your take on OfferPad versus exposing a house to the market?
It's not as good a deal. Any questions? No, sorry, I was being sardonic there. Can you hear me?
We can't hear you, Chip.
We
Yes.
can't hear you, Chip.
No, cannot hear me. Okay, just one moment.
No, we can hear you, Chip.
You can?
Yes.
Very good. My apologies. The marketplace evolved here. It started very similarly to what you're describing, where they were making.
Chip, we cannot hear you. You may be on mute.
I can hear him. Can you, Chip?
I
Chris?
can hear him.
Steve, we
I
can't
can
hear
hear
you.
him fine.
I hear him.
We got a problem?
But you're,
Should it be coming through mine?
Can hear him.
A, B,
Yeah, it's
C,
all the
D,
way up.
E, F, G.
can
Can you-
anybody else hear them or is it just us?
I can hear you, Chip. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Most people, I think, can.
They can hear him. All
They
right.
can? Okay, we
Yeah.
can.
Chip, but so Chip, just so people that are on here that may not be familiar, Chip Hickman's our division president, our Las Vegas office. They've been combating against iBuyers, Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow Offers, which is now defunct, but for a couple of years, and certainly they have a lot more experience than we do here in Indianapolis. So we wanted to see if Chip could enlighten us with what he's learned over the last couple of years. But Chip, I mean, to Jeff and Kyle's question, how you're approaching iBuyers changed over the last 2 years? What have you learned?
First of all, I don't have a lot of information about iBuyers over the last 4 months because it's become such a part of the landscape. I don't even think about it anymore. When Steve called me a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, what's going on with iBuyers out there?" The answer is the dust is kind of settled. Last big event for us was Zillow going defunct. Zillow, essentially, as everybody know, came in and was making a lot of aggressive offers. We were one of those markets. And so what started, let's call it 5 years ago, when we first started hearing about them, was what you guys are experiencing now. There was a gap of, let's call it 15 to 20% between the convenience of using the iBuyer and the value of using the real estate agent. And the people that were using iBuyers, our presentation was kind of fish in a barrel on our value point, because what everybody always responds to is dollars and cents. And a couple of agents here, particularly Alicia here in the office, really took it head on. And we got to the point where we were batting 100 when we presented against it, meaning we always won as long as we were able to explain exactly what Jeff and Kyle just laid out, which is you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table by using this. And it was not an opinion. It was verifiable. I think the best way of explaining how it is, how it changed over that time is to talk about my own house. The house that I'm currently living in, 3 years ago, unsolicited, I had an iBuyer offer on the property. It was not, it was very similar to what Jeff had just described. It was, I would call it $40,000 below what market price was. 2 years ago, I had another iBuyer offer, and it was at the market. Then last year, when Zillow was at its, right before its nadir, when it was about to fall apart, Zillow and OfferPad both made offers on my property, and they were above market. So the answer to the question about out here, and it's apples and oranges to Indianapolis, is I remember having the conversation Jeff is having. We're not having that right now. iBuyer offers here are incredibly competitive. When they go into a new home builder here in the city, Steve had asked how many of the new home builders are working with iBuyers, and the answer is all of them. So if that's not happening in Indianapolis, I would thoroughly expect that business model to translate quickly, because it makes good sense for them to bring in another source. Right now, I'm sure in Indianapolis, there's a shortage of inventory, particularly in new homes, and there's probably a waiting list. Same here. So they don't really need the iBuyers to sell houses. All they need the iBuyers for is to get the people to sign on the spot right now when they come out and see their bid. It's the new car sale. It's identical in its description to the new car sale that, hey, we'll take your used one. Why don't you just take this new one off the lot today, kind of thing. So that's a blanket answer, but it's been an evolution, is the simple one sentence.
Shannon, do you have anything to piggyback on that with Chip? I'm assuming you do.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize. I had gotten a text message from one of my clients in the middle of that. What was his last point? I apologize.
Just how you're dealing with the iBuyers right now with builders. It's new for you've had it,
Yes.
and Chip was just speaking to that point. I know you've had some local experience.
So just meeting with the builders and having an opportunity to go in and talk to the sales rep, it's the way that they're being trained that in years past, I feel like agents that have a history of selling new, we have gone through definitely some waves in our industry of feeling very protected by the sales counselor asking, oh, are you working with an agent? And now the sales counselors and the new home sales are asking, oh, do you have a home to sell? Great, we have a program for you. So with us, I think it's more an education in our market of agents really learning to protect their clients and not letting the opportunity surpass them. One of the biggest things that I've found is educating my people that are thinking about new and letting them know, hey, they might talk to you about this, but here's the deal. Who's going to make the appreciation on your house? We're geared right now, if statistics and everything that the economy is saying is going to happen in our industry, is that we'll probably have about another 13% appreciation here in Hamilton County this year. If I guarantee to buy your home today, which would be an amazing deal for these people, and your home's not ready for 9 to 12 months, my guarantee price isn't changing for the next 9 to 12 months. So that's one of the biggest things that I've kind of shared with people that have considered selling to OfferPad, Lennar, Open Door, Pulte, any of these kind of options that are out there for them, is that someone's going to get the appreciation on it. I'd rather it be us than have it be one of these iBuyer programs. Education, I think, is key in this field.
Chip, any comment on that?
Yes, come move to Las Vegas. I want to hire you.
I would love
but
to.
Yes. Well, good. By the way, we could get off this conference call right now. My phone is working. No, absolutely. You've got to be upfront. Again, Jeff, that presentation you guys put up that you and Kyle have that's showing the dollar for dollar on that particular transaction. If you're able to plug and chug that in a formulaic way such that you can create that presentation for any client, that's exactly what I would do. And Shannon's highlighting it. I'd be doing any client I had that was thinking of selling her home and looking for the next option. I'd be warning them that there's an iBuyer that wants to. One of the pitch points we use to combat against iBuyers is, look, if you want to buy a Christmas present, you can always go to 7-Eleven. Just the choices aren't as good and you're not going to get the same quality. It's not just dollars and cents. It's also who's going to be there to answer your questions. That thing that Jeff brought up about how they're going to hit you with a repair cost in Las Vegas, that could be as much as 15% of the total value of the home, depending on the repairs that they were, quote unquote, needing to do on the property. And they didn't give that to you after they see those pictures. They gave that to you. First they do, you submit the pictures and they give you an offer and they say, well, there could be a repair cost. Then after they've got the hook in you and you've already chosen the new home, they send you over an estimate. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. This is way higher than I thought this is going to be. And the market shifts underneath these iBuyers. Right now, their inventory numbers are really low in Indianapolis because they just arrived. But there's going to come a time when their coffers will fill, and likely they're not going to get full because they're greedy pigs and they want as many as they can take a trough. That being said, if it happened in Vegas, where they got to the place where they didn't need them as much. And so some of the people that they had on contract, they started figuring out ways that they wanted to either increase costs or become draconian about the way that they were going to complete the process. It just, the bottom line is you're dealing with a corporation, not an individual, and they act in the corporation's best interest. And it's almost never in mine. As the person selling to them, it's almost never in my interest.
Yeah. Hey, Chip. Another thing that we've been talking about, how can it be in any client's best interest not to expose their house to the market? With this limited inventory, it doesn't make sense.
Can Shannon, there's a
Yeah.
flex program that is allowing them to expose their house on the market for 60 days. So we need to
Okay.
be prepared to talk about that.
Got it.
Shannon, can you talk about the flex program?
I can tell you what my research has shared with me. Just, I don't have as much information as I'd like. Obviously, I haven't gone through it yet. But with Flex it's the option and not every home is going to qualify for it. I too did the synopsis. I started this about a week ahead of the training with putting a rental property that I have into Open Door and I received a pretty decent offer. Nothing in the home in the neighborhood is sold over 238. They ended up offering me 234. Still, you take your 5% out. That's still not exactly, I think I could probably get 245 for the home right now, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day is what happened was after we went through everything, I wasn't responding, sent in my pictures. It's a nice property. So of course they wanted it. They've now come back to me with an option for flex. And basically it's exactly what we're talking about here. And that is in the aspect of they will open this to the market. They will be the listing agent on it. They list it. They might come in and they might do a little bit of work to it. There's a negotiation period in there with them as to where that kind of falls. But then they're still going to give you that guaranteed offer. You have 60 days with the flex program to bait the home on the open market. That is key, you guys, when we are looking at inventory that is available with offer pads right now. If you see a home that is day 50, you know that in 10 days, they're up, flex is going to be done, and they're going to buy that house. You might have an opportunity to come in and get a better offer on that because I guarantee your offer is probably still going to be better than whatever they have for flex. So flex is like a guaranteed buyout, but yet you still get the opportunity to show it to the open market, like Jeff and Kyle were saying, which would be best for a client. They do like carpet cleaning for you on that. They'll do paint touch-ups if they need. They do a deep house cleaning to get it show ready for you.
What's that cost?
I'm not sure yet. That's one of my biggest things that I haven't figured out on that end yet.
Yeah, I doubt if they're doing it for free, then they'll be gone pretty quick.
I'm sure they're not. I'm sure there's a cost to it.
Yeah.
But it's still, again, all of this goes back to the reason why this information is so important. It is to educate. We always want to be the best advocate for our clients. And it's an opportunity for us to educate and be able to explain to them, hey, this is what's going to happen when you put your home into offer pads and you get an offer. By the way, they're going to come back to you in a week. They're going to offer you what I've just told you is your best interest, which is putting it out into the open market. Let me tell you why working with me is still the best option for you and going that route. I just haven't gotten the particulars yet. Rich, or maybe somebody else on the call has some ideas of what might be an option. Has anybody done flex? Does anybody have any other information on that?
No, I'm going to ask them if they'll do it for me.
Yeah.
I'll just ask them to do it because I tell them what's holding me back is I want to see what the market says. So I'll have them do it. But it's almost impossible for me to believe. Well, are they going to have a licensed offer pad agent list the house, right?
Yes.
So
And I even went in, yes. And what I haven't, and I need to dig more into it. I went in with my rental as I'm an agent. I didn't go in as the owner. So that was the way that they're offering flex to me might be a little bit different because they're treating me as an agent, which by the way, as an agent, offer pads has been amazing with trying to work with me, communication, answering all my questions. And they know I'm an agent kind of on that competitive side.
Yeah, I told them I was an agent.
Yeah.
Along with that, it seems like right now they're offering market value, right, Shannon? So I'm curious, Chip, like how long did that last in Vegas before they started offering below market value? Because right now that's not the case.
It was the opposite. They started offering lowball and then because kind of like, well, I can't tell that joke, but there's a joke I know. And the punchline is because they can. That's the answer to this. Is the reason why they were offering below market value is because they could, because they had people that were buying their pitch, which was, we're saving you on agent commissions and it's way easier. How'd you like to sell this house and never have to deal with a real estate agent? That was essentially their pitch for the first years that they were in town. And it was only after that kind of, I don't want to say that water dried up, but the word got out that you can make more money selling it on your own than you could using it, that they started raising their prices. And at this point, right now, they're very competitive against an agent. Very.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super. And I do believe that has to do with, I thought, Zillow left. So when Steve called me 2 days ago, I called 5 agents and asked how they're butting up against season offers, and particularly on, trying to get their list when they're making listing appointments. And all 5 of the agents told me, no, they're making great offers right now. They're making great offers because they know they have to in order to win in the market. It still is, we're still able to save somebody several $1,000s. We still, even with them making great offers, we can make the conditional. And by the way, when Alicia's been winning these bids, it's usually not on price. She's winning the bid on what she's going to do to represent them in the transaction.
Value proposition.
That's it. The value prop is always the same. And it's kind of alluding to what both Shannon and Jeff originally said. Jeff's exasperation, like, why would somebody ever do it? And the answer is there's only really one reason in Las Vegas that people are 100% utilizing one of these programs. And it's because it happens now and it's easy. It's 7-Eleven. I mean, you could buy your Christmas presents at 7-Eleven, but they're not going to be very good.
All right. Hey, I know Chris Kugelhahn had some data to share. So Chris, are you available to present that?
Yes, I am. Basically, I don't know what all this means. You guys can take it for what it's worth. But as I said in my video yesterday, I went through about 50 of the past closings and pending transactions that OfferPad here in Indianapolis has done. And I'll show you the data. I'm happy to share this with anybody that wants to look at it a little bit further. Can you guys see my screen?
No.
We see you.
Oh, you're waiting.
Yeah, we
go.
can.
We got it.
So this is like the last 51 transactions that I could go back into the tax records and find what OfferPad paid for the house prior to putting it back on the market. So like what they purchased it for is over here when they purchased it and when they listed it and what they've closed, some closed transactions in here. And then the difference between what they bought it for and what they either sold it for, or where they have it listed. And this does not include, if you remember on Jeff's slide, that 5% fee. I believe that when they close on a home, that's going to show up on the HUD as just, a closing cost or like a commission. So really these numbers don't reflect that 5% fee that they're charging, nor do they any type of allowances for inspections. But on average, you're going to see basically about $32,000 difference between what they bought it for. And this is all within like 60 to 90 days. They purchased the house, and then when they relist it, you're looking at about a $30,000 to $50,000 difference. And that does not include that 5% service fee or any allowances they also took. And so if one of the things that I noticed, I'm going to show you something else. This is a map of where OfferPad has closed homes or has pending transactions. So if you're working inside the 465 loop, you probably don't have to worry too much. There's not a whole lot of corporate buyers buying inside of the 465 loop unless you're up in Pike Township. But again, the average list price is about 350 grand. When they purchased the house, it's about 317,000. I also went through each of these. I went through all the pictures on all 50 of these houses. And what you see is a very, I'd say 80% of them have the same color of carpet. It's either, a gray carpet or a brown carpet. They have like 2 different types of hardwood floors that they install, and they install granite countertops in about every home that they have. They also use the same color of paint and trim for all of their homes. So they're basically going in and repainting, putting in new flooring and changing out the countertops. And, that's probably covered with that 5% fee. and then marking the house up 30 to 50 grand. And it doesn't matter if it's a $300,000 house or it's a $500,000 house. It's between 30 and 50 most of the time, at least recently it's been. So, it's something to consider. I'm thinking about if I'm not out there actively doing this, but if I was, these are the things that I'd be showing my sellers is like, look, here's exactly what's going to happen with OfferPad. Here's your price. It might be at market value today, but they're going in and doing the basics, putting a fresh coat of paint on, changing out the floor, and putting in some nice countertops, and then, making the 30 to 50 grand profit. One of my pitches might be, and there might be some flaws in this, but look, we can do the exact same thing. Within 60 to 90 days, I've got contractors that could refloor your house. I've got contractors that could repaint your house. We can change out this stuff and you can capture that 30 to 50 grand. If you want to wait 30 to 90 days. So that's just some of my observations. Like this particular house in 2015 looked like this. OfferPad came in, changed out the flooring, put in some new appliances and countertops, and resold it. 2011 came in, changed out the flooring, repainted the house, and changed out the countertops and resold it for 30 to 50 grand. I mean, it just goes on. And these houses, they look exactly basically the same. They're using the same color of paint, same color of carpet, and 2 or 3 different types of countertops. And then, marking it up 30 or 50 grand over market. So I just wanted to share that. I don't know if that helps anybody. If anybody wants this data to play around with it, just let me know. That's all I got. Oh, there's one other thing. I do have a question of, for the active agents out there, Shannon and Robin and everybody else, how important is it, do you think, to reach out to your clients or your past clients right now and address some of these questions before they get that postcard in the mail?
It's probably the most important thing you can do as an agent. Like, protecting your spear needs to be everything you focus on a daily basis right now. Education and us being the ones that can come in as the strongest force and say, hey, listen, you know me, I have a relationship with you. I'm not going to lead you wrong. Here's what I'm seeing in the market. This is what I'm finding. And this is what I can do for you is your value proposition that will nail the deal and the transaction every single time.
I wonder if we are losing some clients that, past clients that get this postcard in the mail. And
I almost did. Yes.
And, so I'm thinking in the back of my mind, we should be out there, if we're not picking up the phone and calling all of our clients and saying, hey, there's something new in the market. I want you to be aware of it. You're probably going to get a postcard or a letter from Open Door, but here's the gist of the program. And if you do get it, and if it sounds interesting, reach out to me, because I can help you. I can help guide you through it. Even our social media posts, I think we need to start addressing this stuff with our clients, because they're going to get the postcard. They're going to get the letter.
Chip, that was a question I have for you in Vegas. What have you guys seen for your marketing? Because I haven't experienced as much besides postcards. Like, I have been told that people have knocked on their doors. I don't know if that's with Open Door, OfferPads, any of these iBuyers, or if they're, but I wonder how are they getting a hold of people in your market to be able to get in front of them before our agents do?
Yes. They've done every single one of those things.
When
I was telling you they've made offers on my property, those were unsolicited.
Yeah.
Be clear. I've had people calling me up. Hi, how you doing? This is OfferPad. We'd like to, are you open to selling your house? Because we would like to buy it. We have an offer for you. That's what the call was. And that's one of those. I've gotten that now over the last 3 years, 2 times from each of those companies, a solicitation on the phone in person, which means they probably called my phone 100 times and I let it, I screened it to the one time I answered it, because it isn't showing up as a bad number, but it certainly isn't showing up as one of my contacts. So they've been very aggressive because just like Indianapolis, the inventory here is, I mean, God, it's ungodly low. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, we've been operating at a shortage for so long that, and it's getting worse by the day, as I'm sure it is there. So the answer is they're going to be hitting everybody in your sphere of influence. You guys couldn't be more right-headed. I have one thought to piggyback on what you've already said, which would be, if you're not doing a client appreciation where you're bringing people together either digitally or in person to say thanks and how can I help once a year, this is a great topic at a client appreciation, and a number of agents here that are trying to tackle their sphere, not all at once, but definitely in groups. This is it. This is on the list of stuff I'm going to talk about every time I talk to a past client, because you're right. They are definitely going to encounter the brand, and the brand's guerrilla tactic is they're telling them that you are losing by working with a realtor instead of us. And it's the opposite. It's the opposite. I did want to bring one point up about the analysis Chris has done. And by the way, one email to Brett, we can have that in your lap, Chris. What we've done is we've tracked all the Open Door, all the Zillow over, just pulling down off of the MLS what the closings were. And there are probably 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 5 properties where by the price they paid and the price they sold, they are losing money. They've taken a negative on a property. And when we circled back and called and said, hey, what's going on here? What we found out was that it was a new home sale. They bought the property, but they turned around and sold it, which was at that time kind of below market value. And you'd say, well, wait a minute, why would they lose money on a transaction? The answer was, they cleaned up because they made the fees inside plus the new home commission because there was no agent attached to the transaction. They're trying to cut us all out. And that obviously they're a corporation. There was an inefficiency in the market called realtors don't call their past clients. And they stepped in and said, don't worry, because we're going to badmouth every realtor we run into, both on the sell side and buy side. I've had some of the listing agents to work for these companies tell me that I can't believe the stuff they pull on us. So food for thought, it's worse than you're imagining, at least here. And I can't imagine, given your inventory environment and the amount of the difficulty you're going to have digging your way out of that supply issue. I don't think your problems are any different than mine for the next 5 years. This is not going away. It's so ubiquitous now. Like I said, when Steve called and said, what's going on with iBuyers? What's the deal there? I was like, what do you mean? Because I'm so used to it. It's kind of the water's wet, the sky's blue for our market.
Chip, what are you seeing from a buyer standpoint when we're representing a buyer on an OfferPad listing?
Again, the listing agents for OfferPad are not overwhelmed because they've spread it out. They've hired enough agents to where to rep them to where believe it or not, one of the things we always say is, well, at least somebody's going to return our phone call here, because they actually do their work on the iBuyer reps. They do their work and respond to you, but they're very easy to work with up to a point. They're not very easy to work with when they've priced aggressively and there's a ton of offers, but who is?
One of the thing about OfferPad here is they have one rep, and you submit your offers to an accounting at offerpad.com. And you're hearing a lot that, it takes way too long to hear back on those offers, especially in this fast-paced market, but we'll see where that goes. Shannon and Robin and others probably have stories. I don't know.
It was like that in the beginning is the answer, Chris. In the beginning, there was just the one person. I don't know if you remember, but Chris DeMeglio went to work for them and then ended up leaving. And his reason why he was one of those people that was doing that work. And one of the reasons why he quit and came back to us wasn't because of the money. There's tons of business. They're lining them up and selling them. It was because he kept giving his word out to people that X, Y, or Z was going to happen. And the people in the corporation behind him weren't keeping his promises. And he felt like, well, I'm not putting my name out.
Chris, you're correct here that it is the one situation. I made 2 offers on 2 different properties in the last 10 days, and I never got a confirmation, never heard from anyone, sent multiple texts to the listing broker, never heard back. And so I had to call the local office and I talked to some clerk, and that's how I found out the status of my offer. I will say the clerk spilled his guts on exactly what we needed to do to get the offer accepted. Unfortunately, my client didn't have the cash to compete at that level, but there was no communication whatsoever.
Chris, I want a point you made about receiving postcards or letters in the mail. I don't think I'm any different than most homeowners, where I've probably received a dozen of those over the last year and a half, but they haven't really necessarily until recently been for Open Door or OfferPad. They've been more from the We Buy Ugly Houses type people, where they were coming in and lowballing and being just looking for, the 2 or 3% of the people that are just like, here, take the keys. I don't want to mess with this house ever again. And the unbelievable convenience of just not having to worry about it. They don't want to live in the home and worry about paint and countertops and everything else. Just, oh, that's a great price. Here are the keys. But I think with Open Door and OfferPad and what Zillow was doing, they have the money behind them to be more aggressive. They're looking at where the market's going, not where it is. And it's pretty easy to see right now that with the lack of supply and demand still being strong enough cash buyers out there, enough people that can get financing, that prices are going to keep going up. So the bigger corporations have the money and to gamble a little bit and be aggressive on those prices. Zillow got too aggressive. They bought off more than they could chew and it cost them. But it's not difficult to look at the Indianapolis market or most of the markets where we operate and see, yeah, well, we can afford to be a little aggressive. And so, Chip, one more thing, if maybe you could comment on, the offers are probably going to continue to be relatively aggressive, but maybe some of the fee structure that you had mentioned on the phone to me that people don't see happening, and it hits them later and they're like, oh, well, this really wasn't apples to apples to begin with, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah, again, I think it's Cal's and I think that graphic he put up did a great job of spelling out the hidden costs, because that's what we did. It didn't look as good as the one that Cal put up. The one that we created was far less professional. I mean, God, that looked beautiful. I kept on thinking to myself, I need to have that immediately. Jeff and Kyle, that thing that you were using there in your presentation, it looked way better than anything we produced. That's what you're going to need.
That was a Tycor title app.
Oh, wow. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. Like that's exactly that is the poison, or sorry, that's the silver bullet to kill the werewolf. You've got to put in front of them. Well, I know they said using a realtor not using a realtor is going to save you money. Let's do some analysis, take a look and see what the real numbers are. And once you do that, it's over. Every time. You're going to normally, the exception of that rule, by the way, was when Zillow had entered the market in spring of last year until the time of their demise. We were doing that analysis, and Zillow's offers were better than the market. As in, we had 2 agents here in the office that sold their house that did not rep themselves, that sold their house to Zillow. And the reason why is because they legitimately got them a better deal than the market was offering. They were offering me $25,000 above comps on my house. But that was neglecting the fees, because they were running it at that time at, I believe, what they called a zero fee. It wasn't zero fee, but sans the repair cost, their offer was so aggressive that I literally could net more money selling to Zillow as a realtor.
And
doing
Chip, they were waiving appraisal, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They were walking completely away from whatever the grounded number was, because again, in this market, and I'm sure it's kind of that way too, whatever I'm holding today, if I'm paying today's price, it's a discount because the market's moving aggressively, especially we're at sub right now. I believe our number, I don't have it for this week, but I believe as of last week, we are below 1,800 homes total available. And our months of inventory number, like our days on market months of inventory, it's sub 15. Once you start getting into these numbers, it doesn't matter if it's 15 or 5. That's nuts. And I'm sure you guys, you just said 23 days. That's the crazy time. You're now in a place, and no lectures needed on that. We all know what that's like. So Zillow's out, OfferPad, and there's another that I'm just having a brain fire right now.
Open Door.
Open Door, thank you. and Open Door are not as aggressive as Zillow was, but they've made good. The last offer that OfferPad made me was at market. Now it still have their fees inside of it, but we're talking probably a 1 to 2% difference between the market and what they were offering me for the convenience of having to do nothing.
But I,
So-
the,
Chip, oh, go ahead.
the bottom line in this whole thing is that they're a corporation, they're business like anybody else, and they have to make a profit. And the basic easiest message from a business perspective is they make that profit through fees and your hard-earned equity, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, because that's the only way they're going to stay in business. Now, there are always going to be one-offs where they are going to pay full price, i.e. Zillow, and that's why Zillow's no longer here, because they weren't adhering to their business model.
That's
And
exactly what I would say. You
yeah,
nailed it. You nailed
it's
it.
just that simple. They have to make their profit somewhere, and it's your hard-earned equity. This isn't a mystery. And I do take
Yeah.
offense to that "we buy ugly houses" because my tagline is work with an ugly realtor. I try harder because I have to. And that I found that offensive.
Yeah.
We went 50 minutes without a joke, Kyle.
Yeah, I had to get one in there.
He calls himself the old dog with new tricks.
Yeah.
But
And
to
you don't
Chris's-
know which end of the dog you're looking at.
To Chris's point about calling your people, even your people who you have lined up to list later, I met with someone to review the timing of their listing. And we already have pictures taken and everything, and they brought up OfferPad to me.
Yeah.
So if we're not bringing up OfferPad to our buyers and our sellers and it's talking about what that process looks like for them, then we're no longer their resource in their mind because they're finding out other information without us. So we have to meet with them. We have to talk to them. Like Chris is saying, call them, email them, have the client appreciation events, all the things so that you can be the resource for them on everything, even though it's an uncomfortable conversation.
All right.
That's about all we have. Anybody else have any icing for the cake?
Thank you, Shannon and Chip, once again for
Sure.
your participation. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah.
We've got over 80 people on this Zoom. Who has questions? Now's your time.
I don't have any questions, but it was
You're-
open, on mute, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I get, just like Chip gets those unsolicited phone calls, I get 2 or 3 of those a week, it seems like. And about a month ago, I actually took one of them, I talked with them for half an hour, and they sent me over an offer of 165 to 175 depending on the range. And I said, okay, that's interesting, you know, can you show me the comps that support that? And I think that kind of scared him, so I said the word comps, like I might know what I'm talking about. And he was dumb enough to do it. And he sent them over, and he sent me 3 houses in my neighborhood that sold in the last like 60 days for 242. And I said, so what do you, what's happening here? He said, what are the updates? And I said, like I told you, I have all new floor, brand new roof, HVAC and AC's 2 years old. You know, new kitchens, blah, 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 blah. He goes, oh, okay. He stretched it, so I could probably get to 195. And I said, you realize that that's still 25% less than the average in my neighborhood. And you know, I'm a realtor, right? 10 minutes later, call back. I can go to 215. I was just like, that just proves that they are absolutely predatory on the client's ignorance. But once, so I was amazed that you and Shannon both said that because they knew you were realtors, they came in stronger to begin with. Yeah, and that's smart for them because it doesn't have us talking like this about them.
Well, what they really wanted is they wanted me to introduce all my clients to them. And he was very clear. He said, you need to register your clients with us before they call us. Because if they call us, you're not protected. But if you register them with us, you're protected. So literally, go
You guys
ahead.
have a really bad echo. Somebody needs to
Give us your clients.
Jonathan, can you
Register
mute?
your clients with us because that's the best way to avoid us taking your clients in the first place.
Jonathan, you might need to
So
mute.
go ahead
You
and
guys
give
got
them
a really bad
time
echo.
before we steal them. Incredible. I mean, it was an incredible statement.
There was a comment
What other questions do we have out there?
There was a comment, and maybe somebody that's dealt with this knows, Nikki said these iBuyers have a 1% penalty fee to cancel. Why wouldn't a buyer cancel and eat and list traditionally closer to the new home being completed, avoid the 20% loss and capitalize on the 25% gain, and not move twice and paying it at all? So basically, if one of these builders says go to an iBuyer, they're going to offer you something, wait 6 to 12 months while your home is being built. You could cancel right before that for a 1% fee. Does anybody know anything about that?
No.
Cancel the new build?
Cancel the iBuyer contract.
Okay.
I-
That's what I was wondering if you,
Shannon has some input on it.
yeah. Can they back out, Shannon?
I don't know, but if that's the case and we find it to be true, I feel like that's one of the easiest sales tactics you can go. Like I'll always put my ass on the line. So for me, it's like, fine, I'll charge you a 5% commission. If I get X amount for the house, then I want my 1% back. I mean, I'll save you the 1% if I don't make you more. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if that's the case, I'd be more than willing to go up against these offers all the time and put my commission on the line to know that I can get them not only their 1%, but make my own 1% on top of that back.
It just seems to me like they're kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do. I mean, if we come up with a way to compete, they're going to counter it. So, it's just going to keep evolving as we go forward. I think all these things, and I ran numbers and all this, but I think to Robin's point, we can combat this with numbers for a certain segment of the population. There's another segment of the population where we're going to have some kind of a relationship. We're going to have to fight this with the fear of dealing with the unknown. I mean, most of the time, I think it will be about money, but sometimes we're going to have to create some uncertainty as to what's going to happen. I mean, are they going to close? And it's a great example that Zillow, they did not close. Much larger company, they got out of it. And at the end, they weren't closing on. What are you going to do? You're going to sue Zillow to make them buy your house?
They defaulted on 35% of their contracts.
Well, 35% of their remaining, they dumped half of them off the market to investors, to hedge funds. And then the other half, what was it, Kyle? Like 400 or 500 houses? There were 400 or 500 people that they just said, no, we're not going to buy the house.
To speak to the Zillow, I really think it's important for you to use that in every presentation, the way Kyle just did. You got to be beating up Zillow because it's a news article that everybody heard. It spooked the industry out here. The one thing I can tell you, one of the reasons why we don't hear a lot about iBuyer, is Zillow kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth.
Yes.
So it's definitely good, good tactics for you to use that as a pitch point, as a negative pitch point against. Why would you, they're saying don't use a realtor. Why would you ever trust one of those companies? I mean, look what Zillow did. They left a bunch of people hanging on offers, just like the one they're making you.
Yeah. You can get zapped with Zillow.
That's usually the sign that we've run long enough. Yeah.
So bad.
We're just about ready to put a pin in it because I think we're done. All right. Anybody else? Any questions?
Your head will be under the pillow if you work with Zillow.
Okay. Unless somebody has something really interesting, I think that'll do it.
Have a great week.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Great
Thank
information.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chip. Appreciate you getting up so early.